Alright, so I'm trying to take this apart now to take this motor off and put it on the other bike and have this one ready for the 500 or the 700 engine. And so I'm just going to show you what I have so far. Is this bike actually has a Keenan carb flat slide, and you can see the modification it has in here, and you can see it's been welded. So this bike has a lot of different things that have been done to it. I'm just going to start going back and taking off this engine. Most everything's off of it. The only thing that's wrong with this bike is this in here is broke. So whenever I put the 12 tooth sprocket on the front tire, on the front 12 tooth front sprocket, I had to shorten the chain. When I shortened the chain, I came over and I noticed that this is broke. So what I had to do is cut this bolt in half so I could get it in here and do the same thing they did, which is kind of just lay it in there into the hole, because there's a broken off bolt inside there. So I'll have to see about getting that out at some point. The other thing that is problematic is the front shocks are leaking a little bit. And I will put in some video of this bike being low to the ground. There is some lowness to the ground compared to other bikes. My knees are hitting the ground, and it's hard for me to put the front fork holder on it.
Really low, even on standing.
Well, yeah, of course it does. I think this bike's even lower now.
Oh, you got a dipper lowering like that flat.
Yeah, that baby's down there, that's for sure.
It's on the ground. Yeah, you got a spot of mud.
Must have been.
Yeah,
I thought, what the hell?
Because they don't come and go. I mean, it's either you got a break or not. But you got a blob of mud in there, and
must have.
Or the ground is so slick that you didn't feel it locked up. That's possible too, because there's slippery spots.
Let me sit on your bike just for this. Oh yeah, I gotta unload this thing.
It's really short. Of course, you're short too, Steve. So
I'm short too.
It's still way too tall for you.
It's taller than mine.
Yeah.
But he's tall enough. He just looks like he's.
Well, yeah, because you're what, 6'2",
6'3".
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So mine, he would look like he was.
Jump on his bike. See what it feels like. I mean, the seat feels like a board.
Look at his freaking legs. They're 55 miles long.
Doesn't it feel weird? And the bars are up high.
Yeah. It's kind of hard, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like a rock.
There's not much
There's
foam
no foam left. It's on the frame.
Which is fine with me. It works a lot better for me.
Yeah. No, it feels really stable.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to turn, which is kind of shitty, but it's stable.
Okay. I'm gonna take it at this side. Taking a picture of this now so we can compare when I get the 700. The crosshairs are still seen inside the bore, so the bore looks pretty good, but this thing here is kind of loose, so I'm just going to take it apart and try to tighten it. I think that probably dirt hasn't been getting in there just because there is a seal in here. I don't remember which side the seal's on though, so okay, the seal. This is the seal. So, like I said, I'm not going to, since I'm already rebuilding one, I don't need two of these, so I'm going to run this one. Because I don't see anything wrong with it not to run it until the other one I'm already rebuilding is done. So, that's the point of this. There was no spring in there. Well, I can put one in because I have an extra. Yeah, I see it tighten these. That is weird, no spring. But like I said, I do have, I bought a new one, so I do have the old one from the other bike, and I'll put the old one in here. Yeah, it's pretty protected from getting stuff in there, so not too worried about it. So I found that the bottom bolt here was missing, and it looks like this thing was in there when it came out. So I believe it was like this. And so what they did was they held the power valve wide open. So that's how the bike has been tuned to run without the power valve, it seems. So now the question is whether I allow the power valve to work or I keep it like this and just bolt it back up without the power valve working. I think I will just put the power valve back on and see what happens. So, unfortunately, I only currently have this blue stuff with me as far as thread lockers. So, and it's missing one of the bolts. However, I have to go to the store and get another bolt, but at the same time I have another bike that I've already taken apart, and I will have the, I do have the, alright. That's on. See, that's how it goes in there. Good. Okay. Alright, so I took apart this bike here. We had this carb mod. So I actually talked with RB Designs, and this is actually on the wrong side. I was kind of wondering how it would work being on this side. This is just going to flow the airflow coming in, and the slider is already doing that. It's already controlling the airflow that comes in. So really all this ends up happening is, what he said is that you just end up having the bike run rich and lean and top and bottom end. You just have to change your jetting, so it doesn't really do anything. The modification he actually does isn't on the air intake side, it's on the gas intake side. You put the plate here, so then whenever you lift it up, usually you lift this up, this comes up, and then it has this whole chamber here that fills up with air, versus putting it through a much smaller hole, so it forces the air through and everything through faster. And so that's the actual modification that he does. This modification is an imitation modification, doesn't do anything. So as you can see, the motor is out and on the table there. And of course I have fixed the I decided to keep the power valve working. Alright, so that's why it works now. And what I'm going to probably do is not transfer that carb over. Instead, I'll just put it on there with TM carb. On this bike, I have all the bolts ready to go. Ready to throw that carb on. It has the SEM ignition. So let's go back on. So this will pretty much be like the motor was on there already. When I looked in the cylinder, it still had the X pattern, so it looks like it's actually in pretty good shape. Might have been recently bored or something. And yeah, the other one, I'm going to change out the SEM ignition for a power dynamo, heavy flywheel, and it's going to have different gearing. It's not going to be the MX bike like this is anymore. It'll have the enduro gearing. So those will be the changes. And maybe take a look inside the cylinder there. Alright, M500. See, this is an ATK import. They shaved off the Maico name. You can feel it there. They shaved it off. This is the other what it's supposed to look like inside there. So, alright. Oh, the transplant is getting closer. Have most everything on. Just need to finish up bolting up the back shock. I need to do the kicker. It needs to be forward, because these things don't start with a kicker that far back. They don't get enough kick on them. And I need to bleed the clutch. So otherwise, oh yeah, once I put the shock on, I need to put the sprocket on, then put the tank on. That's pretty much it. Everything else is hooked up. So the motor's off of that one and completely transplanted onto this bike.